Hello everyone, welcome back to another Voice Essentials live hangout. And it's always good to remember to hit your mute button before you start talking, which I obviously just forgot to do. So good to be hanging out with you all today. We've got a very special guest, Danielle Tucker, and she's a professional singer, singing teacher, I believe also, and she's going to be joining us in a few moments. I'm really looking forward to our conversation with Danielle today, because there's just so much that we can learn from professional singers like Danielle, who have made a career out of singing. And even though you yourself may not be a professional singer, a lot of the people that watch the channel here are avocational singers, but there is so many tips, tricks, insights that we can gain into how to use our voice in both performance and practice and preparation. And so I'm looking forward to our conversation with Danielle. Just before we do introduce Danielle, I just want to say thank you very much for all of the messages particularly within the Facebook community group for Voice Essentials, for the funeral that I was at last week, which is why we didn't have a live show last week. I was at the funeral of Hazel Hall, my sister-in-law's mother, and Hazel was a wonderful lady, and she always used to tell me, this is going back a number of years when I was doing a lot of professional performance and touring and whatever, she used to tell me how much she loved tenors, and so it was lovely to celebrate Hazel's life last Monday. And so thank you again to everyone who sent their condolences and well wishes, and it was so good to be there to support who is actually my wife, Jodie's brother's wife, so and the family, so that was good. Next week, so we've got a special guest this week. Next week we've got a Q&A, so we would have had a Q&A last week, but we're having a Q&A next week. And so make sure you come ready with all of your questions, because then we'll be taking a 2-week scheduled break. No, we had a break last week, but in 2 weeks' time, it's a scheduled break for 2 weeks, because we're mid-semester here, or between semesters, semester 1 and 2 for the year. So we'll have a 2-week holiday, and then we'll be back for the second half of 2021. Can you believe it? The year is flying, and so that'll be great. Hey, just a reminder, especially for those of you who watch the show as a replay, actually it is only for those of you who watch the show as a replay, that going forward, the wonderful, amazing, phenomenal Linda is preparing the time codes for every live hangout that we have. She has backdated to the beginning of this year. She's already done all of those. Linda, you are not allowed to do any more backdating. We're only going forward from this point. So it just makes it easier for you to jump around the video and go looking for the information that you want. They will be on all the live in fact, they're on all the Voice Essentials videos going forward, not just the lives, but also the pre-records as well. Wanted to remind you about that, and we really love people who are able to hang out with us, after the fact and watch the replay, because when we have guests on like Danielle, who I'm about to introduce you to, it is so good to jump in, have a watch, have a listen to their wealth of expertise and their wealth of experience. And that's exactly what we're going to experience today with Danielle straight after this.
Sound check. Check 1, check 2.
Hello, Danielle. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Thanks
for having me.
I am so pleased to have you on the show, because I've seen a number of because you do a hangout every week, don't you? Called the Pandemic Proof Singer, I believe it's titled. Am I getting that right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Every Wednesday night.
And you hang out with some very, very cool musos and singers. So I'm really thrilled to have you on the show. We have only recently gotten to know one another by virtue of you were kind enough to invite me into the virtual symposium conference that is it's a tongue twister. I don't know why I find it difficult to say the pandemic-proof singer summit.
Got it.
Yeah, I got it. Yay. So it is. It was a real honour for me to accept to participate in that. But before we talk about that, let's introduce you a little bit more to everyone. I wonder if you could tell us a bit about who Danielle Tucker is.
Sure. Yeah. My name's Danielle Tucker, and I am based out of San Diego, California. Married to Chuck Tucker, and we have two lovely little ones, Ashley and Anna, who are 7 and 8. And I've been a professional singer for about 25 years. I started my career kind of aiming to be an independent artist, and then at some point I was introduced into the life of a working singer. And so that is kind of the path that I went down, and I've been doing that now for, gosh, I guess, I don't know, maybe the past 15, 16 years. And it's wonderful. My full-time gig is with a band called the Mighty Untouchables, and we are a corporate show band. We perform for big corporate events and big private events. And we do about, I want to say maybe 125 shows a year. And outside of that, I do session work. I do a lot of just independent solo performances. I do a lot of church work. So every Sunday I'm doing any number of church services. And then I also have my own private vocal coaching practice as well.
Yeah, and that was a little bit that I stumbled over at the beginning, because of course you are a fully fledged experienced singing teacher, and so we're really so fortunate to have you, because you bring to the table such a vast variety of skills and expertise. So you kind of you as is often the case, I find, with professional singers, they kind of talk about this surreptitious beginning to their vocal career. Give us a little bit more insight into how you found yourself performing professionally.
Yeah. Well, I think, I grew up singing in the church. That's kind of how I got my start. And then my first big, I guess, breakout opportunity was on a show called Ed McMahon's Star Search. And that was back in the day, that was kind of like, I guess, the American Idol of our time. It was a big variety show. And I was about, I want to say 13, 14 years old. So that would have been in 1993, I want to say. So that was
You've got everyone doing their mathematics right now.
Right. Yes. That's okay. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that show. And I think at that point, my parents started taking what I wanted to do a lot more seriously. And they were always very, very supportive. But at that point, they were a lot more willing to help me get into, various talent shows and pageants and things like that. And I was always in choir throughout high school. And once I got out of school, I dabbled in college a little bit, but I just wasn't sure what I really wanted to do. I knew I wanted to sing, and I was having a hard time finding my way in the academic space of singing. So I thought, all right, I'm gonna put that on hold for a minute and see what I can do out on my own. And so I joined my first band when I was just barely 18 years old and moved across the country and joined this group that was on the road pretty much 24/7. We would play a resort during the day, and at night we would play a club. And so it was twice a day, every day. And once we were done in one city, we would move to the next overnight. And so I just kind of had this great jump into, the water experience with this band, my first year being a professional. And I just, that was a lot for someone that was 18 years old. So I was really only able to hang with that for about a year until I was terribly homesick and overwhelmed with the life of being on the road. So I came home and got involved with a number of other bands that were local here, and just kind of kept up with the experience of that. And eventually I did go back to school for music. I went to Azusa Pacific University and kind of continued on with my education from there. And by the time I got home, I was more interested in kind of pursuing my original career. And at the time, I was all about country music. And so I put out my first country EP in, I think it was maybe 2003, 2004. Had a great run with that. Had a wonderful, couple of years, promoting that EP. And I was also at the time getting the Mighty Untouchables off the ground, as well as kind of, at the time, was the side project. And then my two lovely daughters came along, and after that I did want to put out another original project, but the Mighty Untouchables really took off, and this project just kind of became a full-time living for me, and it really opened the door to a whole nother avenue of singing that I really didn't even know existed. I really thought that, you go out there and you become a star doing your own thing, and that's how you really make a living and a life singing. But little did I know that there is this whole other world, this life of a working singer, that I am so glad that I discovered, because, today I'm very happy, very living a great life and enjoying a wonderful career.
It's uncanny. And you and I, because we kind of connected later this morning, you and I haven't had a chance to really chat at any length. So, but I have to tell you, it's uncanny how similar your story is to mine.
Oh, really?
No, seriously. My first year out of high school, I toured with a band, living out of a suitcase and out of a minivan with a 8-ton Pantech, touring the eastern seaboard of Australia. And then my career progressed in a not dissimilar way to yours, to the point where I found myself doing corporate work. I think I did my corporate work before my solo touring. So you did yours the other way around, if I heard that correctly. But yes, that's interesting. There's kind of no dedicated, even though your story is similar to mine and mine to yours. It's interesting, isn't there? There's kind of no specific dedicated pathway to becoming a professional singer. And I love the way your turn of phrase, a working singer, as opposed, because I think when we think professional singer, we think celebrity, don't we? But in fact,
Yeah.
as you just made very clear for everyone, there is this whole world of working singer, of people who are getting to do the singing thing for good coin, that you don't know who they are, and you'll probably never know who they are on one level.
Right.
When let's turn, if we can, I'd love to hear your process, if you would, for if you're getting ready for a gig. In fact, when I was doing my pandemic, I don't know if you recall, but my pandemic proof Singer Summit presentation, while I was giving it, you were doing your makeup and everything, and you getting ready for the show that you were about to sing at, which is a lot of fun. But of course, your hair and makeup is only one small part of the picture. Can you talk us through the process that you go through in the lead up to preparing for performance?
Sure. Yeah. You know what? This is a really timely question because, of course, quarantine radically shifted, what the performance life was like. So I had quite a lot of time off, which is how, I started up the Pandemic Proof Singer, the series and the summit. So now in the past, I guess it's been the past 2 or 3 weeks, things are just rapidly opening up, which has sent a flood of work coming in for me as a singer. And it's been while I'm extremely happy and grateful for all the work, it's been amazingly overwhelming. I just, I have kids, so, I obviously have a lot of responsibility with my kids, but then also a lot of responsibility with the gigs that I have accepted. And so I guess my process is, with the Mighty Untouchables, being a member of this group, our working agreement in this group is that the gigs that this band brings in kind of take precedence over all others. So they kind of trump any others offers that we get. So everyone in the band has their side projects and everything. But we kind of have to prioritize everything that comes in for us, and we're not able to accept other gigs if we have something on hold or booked for this band. So we kind of sprinkle in all of these other side gigs, and I work for a company that produces trio performances. So which is the one that you saw me getting ready for. We do an Andrews
Sisters, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's right. Yes, I was dressing up as Laverne Andrews. We do an Andrews Sisters show. We do a tribute to the Beach Boys albums, which is called The Beach Girls. And we do a classic country show. We do a doo-wop show. So at any given time, I am learning a ton of music. So that's a huge part of my process. All the music that I do is cover music. So I have an ongoing schedule that tells me, all right, if I have a performance coming up on Friday, I need to start prepping for that on Wednesday, because just knowing myself and how I operate, I need at least 48 hours to 72 hours to learn a piece, let the neural pathways lay down in my mind to be able to recall a melody, to be able to recall a harmony, to be able to memorize it. So that's kind of something just that I have personally discovered for myself is, what I really need to prepare. Every day I look at my schedule and see what it is that, I need to learn song-wise and have memorized. And then I also prepare whatever attire is needed. And I'll prepare really logistically everything that I need to do. Again, I have children, so I've got to make sure that I have childcare lined up, or that my husband and I are on the same sheet schedule-wise. And also making sure, that I've mapped out time for any rehearsals that are going to be taking place, drive time, and, I guess just all the regular preparations for that.
So that's, I think some people will have heard, your commentary around, I need 72 to 48 hours to learn new pieces. And I think some people will have gasped at that, at the quickness of that turnaround. what let's talk people through, like step by step for you. What are you doing in that? Because I know I had I don't think I was ever in a position where I was needing to learn pieces that quickly. Um, but I had I knew how I went about learning my material. What is your sort of step by step? If you had 72 hours to do it, 3 days, how are you going to step that out to learn new material?
Sure. Yeah. Yes. And I understand that it is surprisingly quick. And I just had this conversation this morning with with a bass player, and we were talking about how we feel a little like funky right now because we've been out, we're out of that conditioning of, the mental conditioning of being able to learn things that quickly. So we're feeling a little slow and overwhelmed right now. But, when this is not your regular program and you're not accustomed to having to learn music this quickly, to take one song and work on it for weeks or months is totally normal. I mean, that is, I think on average, that would be the completely normal space to do that within. And that's the regular time that I work with any singer on, one song. But when this is the regular pace of your life, your mind just kind of gets wired that way. And you kind of, your ability to mentally recall melodies and harmonies and lyrics and things like that, you just kind of get on that in that flow, and it becomes an easier learning process. So let's say at the beginning of the week, I probably have maybe 2 songs that I would need to learn for the band for, a special event or something that we're doing. And then I'll have probably 3 to 4 songs that I'll have to learn for a church service. And then, maybe something else that I'm going to do in a session that week. So what I will usually start by doing is I need to just listen to a recording over and over again on repetition. And so even if it's just kind of happening in the atmosphere of where I am, if I'm driving or if I am cooking, cleaning, doing dishes or whatever, or if I just kind of have it going on in the room while I'm working, that's enough for me to just kind of have it seep into my mind a little bit, so I'm starting to build up that familiarity with it. And then, so that's probably the first 24 hours I'll spend with a song. And then in the next 24 hours, that's when I'll start listening a lot more intently to it. And I'll create a visual for it as well as the audible learning aspect of it. So I'll listen, and then I'll often write out a lyric sheet that gives me a visual of the form of the song. So I can see when an introduction happens, a verse, a chorus, a verse, chorus, bridge, wherever the form takes the song, so that my mind kind of creates this little outline of the song. And that kind of helps me to know what section is going to come when. And then I can also look at the lyrics to see visually how the lines flow and kind of take that mental picture of the lyrics. And that then I'll usually just break it down section by section. I'll start with from the top with the intro, and I will listen and I'll watch my lyrics, and then I will try to sing through it on my own. And if I can nail, the first part of it, then I will move on to the next section and just kind of take it piece by piece like that until it starts feeling, really solid. Then in the last 24 hours, so, we're into that 3rd day now, that's usually when I will try to step away from any listening aids, any guide vocals that I've been listening to, and I will try to sing it either a cappella or I'll try to sing it along with just an instrumental track. This is when I'll start stepping away from a lyric sheet and or the form sheet, and I'll just start trying to enforce my memorization of it. And While I don't always 100% memorize something, on stage, a lot of times I'll have an iPad off to the side that I can watch a lyric sheet, but I don't want my eyes to be glued on that. I don't want to have to rely on it. So I will just make sure that I have a song solid enough that if I'm going to perform it that day, the only reason I'll have to glance over at a lyric sheet is if it's an emergency, if I just completely space on something and I just need that, that little reminder. But yeah, that's usually kind of how I work through the process.
That's it's exactly how I go about it. And,
Yes.
and I'd love to stress for everyone watching, listening, actually how important that first 24 hours is because I would do the same thing. Often I was creating a playlist. Back in the day, I was creating a mixtape for myself, essentially.
Yes,
and
me too.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, and just having that play into the subconscious was such an important part. I always found that if I was caused to have to skip that part, I found the next stages all the more harder. I don't know how you have found that, but just having it play off to the side and I'm not actively listening, it's just there, was so important. In fact, I employ that same methodology for when I'm introducing a new song at my church. I will play the new song for 2 or 3 weeks prior, pre and post service, so that congregation members are just hearing it. We're not. It's just piped through the front of house with no in. But there's something in that inactive listening that enables us to then, when we do come to learn the song, it's so much easier, isn't it?
It really is. And I certainly cannot explain the science behind it or how our brains, process this, but, I think a good way to look at it, to understand how, why this process would work is if you think about when you hear a brand new song on the radio for the first time, you may not really like it at first. It might not really grab you, or it might not, you may not remember it. But the more you hear it, it starts to grow on you and it starts to implant itself in your mind. And then it starts to trigger emotions within you. It starts to, it is seeping like into your cells. And then before you know it, you love this song and you just, you can sing it backwards and forwards. And I just feel like, that's why the process works the way that it does. That's just how music makes its way into our beings.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's, to be clear for everyone, this is not the only way to go about learning lyrics. I am so envious of, I've got a number of, have had a number of friends and colleagues over the years, and I don't know how they do it, but they only have to hear a song once or twice and boom, they can perform it by rote, off by heart. Because lyrics, I don't know about you, Danielle, but lyrics have always been the bane of my, professional existence. My wife, my wife has always said that I developed a completely different skill, and that was to be able to make up lyrics on the spot that were not the actual lyrics, but somehow made sense to then get me to the next part of the song that I did know the lyrics for.
Yeah. They're the bane of my existence as well. Yeah, I'm fully with you on that. And that's why I have to have such a, meticulous learning process. I mean, my 2 co-singers in my band, one in particular has this uncanny ability to memorize something when he's only listened to it for, a few times. And And he'll be able to pull a song out of his mind that he hasn't sung in a year or
Oh,
two, maybe 3 years, and he'll still be able to sing every last lyric, and that absolutely blows my mind.
oh,
So we're all different,
yep.
it just, we've got to find our process and really what works for you.
So having found your process for the development of lyrics and preparing in that way, I wonder if you could talk us through your warm-up preparation. Like, what are you doing to prepare your voice specifically?
Yeah, well, I think that when life is normal outside of COVID times, I think that, yes, when I am in my regular gigging schedule, I don't have to do a ton of voice work just because I'm pretty well conditioned and used to singing on a daily basis. And also, vocal coaching, doing scales, doing technical work with singers every day. I have the good fortune of being able to sing along with them. So that helps me a lot. But when I am on a gig, when I am on my way to a gig, I will usually do about a 15 to 20-minute pre-recorded warm up in the car or in the green room if I'm having to wait. But I usually like to do it right before we're going to sound check just to kind of, get things going. And it's usually nothing very technical in nature. I like to do a lot of SOVT warm-ups, and those work very, very well for me in the type of music that I sing. So I focus a lot on those. But yeah, generally during the week, I don't do a ton of technical work on my voice anymore unless I have to learn something very, very challenging. And one example of that was I had to learn a Tori Kelly song that was an absolute beast and was probably out of my range, but I was so stubborn about it. I just knew I could do it, if I pushed hard enough. So I did a lot of straw phonation work around that, and the more I focused on that, the easier and easier it became for me. So that really became a regular part of my routine when I do have to learn something bigger.
That is the SOVT for those people playing at home, semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. Does that become a regular part of your process?
It is, and especially being in the particular genres of music that I sing, mostly pop, rock, jazz stuff. Those types of exercises are great, and with things being a lot more contemporary and just the trend with vocals being very high, I think that these they're really great exercises, and they're so easy, and when you can learn to do them correctly, they're great.
Awesome. So, because I just looked down at the time and thought, I've got so many other questions here that I wanted to cover. So I wonder whether I could ask you a question without notice. So this is a question where I wanted to sort of ask you, what are three things? If you can think of less, that's okay. If you can think of more, fantastic. What are three things that you wish you had have been told before you started professionally singing?
Three things I wish I had not been
No,
told,
that you
that
we will
that I
get to that.
hadn't been told?
Let's cover all the bases.
Okay.
Let's start on the
All right.
positive.
Okay. I wish I had been told, number one, that there is no exact right way to sing, that there are many methods out there, and that training your voice and learning to use your voice isn't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily need to be a corrective experience, but especially if you're an indie artist or, maybe in more the contemporary pop rock vein of things, that learning and training your voice can be more of an enhancing what you already have experienced. So, I really went into voice work thinking that I needed to learn how to be perfect with my voice, So it took me many years to get over trying to replicate what I was hearing. So I could just let my own style and my own unique characteristics kind of shine through. So that's a big one that I wish I had known before. I also wish that I had known that that your looks and image should not hold you back from what it is that you want to pursue. I think society may be getting a little bit better about this, but when I got started, I always felt like I wasn't the right look, I wasn't the right shape, I wasn't the right size, and I kind of would be reluctant to pursue certain opportunities thinking that I was already going to be canceled out of them for this reason or that reason. And so I think I would have stepped into the profession a lot more confidently if I had just embraced who I was to begin with and just allowed myself to be who I was at the time. That has played a big role, throughout my entire career. So that was one big thing. And I think another thing I really wish that I had known was how important it would have been to play an instrument, piano or guitar as a singer. It isn't absolutely necessary, but the more involved you become in the profession, the more you realize, gosh, I wish I were a better piano player or guitar player. That's something I just wish that I had been more serious about. It would have afforded me a lot more opportunities as a soloist, as a songwriter, and so on.
Yeah, we're like two peas in a pod. I'm the same.
Yeah.
I play guitar, but I am by no means an accomplished guitarist, and I wish that I had. I don't come from a dedicated musical family as such, so I had to sort of learn all of what I was learning just clean, fresh. I didn't have any guidance, and I look back and wish I had had some guidance. This is by no fault of my parents. You don't know what you don't know, right? I would have loved to have been able to learn piano in a far more dedicated way. That would have been a big plus. And for those watching, if you are thinking of learning an instrument, guitar is good. I think keys, piano would be my pick of the go-to. Just in how it also helps you to really understand music, potentially a bit better than guitar. What are your thoughts, Danielle?
I completely agree. I mean, if you can play both, that's great. Even if you can just play a little, enough to be dangerous, and learn, learn enough chords just to, just to play what it is that you like. But yeah, I would agree. If I had to choose between the two, piano is probably more aligned with the singing career. I think.
Yeah, definitely. Mm. So now that you've mentioned this a number of times, because obviously, pre-COVID, the world was different, and we were kind of happily going along, weren't we? And then the whole globe hit this, to call it a speed bump is actually to trivialize it. It's far more than a speed bump, especially in many parts of the world. But COVID has changed things, and I think it's almost certainly changed things forever. How has it changed things for you? Obviously, you pivoted a little bit, to excuse the use of that well-worn term. You pivoted to the pandemic-proof Singers Summit and also the show that you do weekly. How has it changed things for you beyond those things? as a singer per se?
Oh, my gosh, so many things have changed. So many things have changed. I think over the year, oh, it's been more than a year now. I've just realized so many things that were blind spots for me in my career.
Wow.
And, I could not have seen this coming. Nobody could have seen this coming. But now we know better. And so there's a lot of things that I'm going to be doing, going to be doing differently going forward. And that really was why I started the Pandemic Proof Singer Series and Summit, was to discover, how do we protect ourselves from the unknown, in this career. We can't, we can't see everything coming, but I think there were some glaringly obvious things that, could be prepared for in the future. So just a few examples of things like that are, in the world of music, you have that kind of stereotype or that thought process of the kind of the starving artist mentality, and musicians and such are usually regarded as not, that it's not the rich life, and that you got to have a real job on the side to do this. And so I just think that within the music community as a whole, we need to better our financial literacy. We need to understand more what it means to be an independent contractor and not so much an employee, how to, financially prepare yourself so that when the unexpected does come up, that you're ready for it. I mean, in the life of a performer, if you break a leg, if you have an accident, if you get sick, if you cannot perform, you don't get paid. And so, there's a number of things that you can do to kind of prepare for something like that. I think one of the other big things too was my career had become almost completely dependent on my main gig, which is with my band, the Mighty Untouchables. And, while that is a blessing, it's a wonderful thing. I also learned, though, that you've got to be very careful about not putting all your eggs in one basket and kind of diversifying your opportunities. And I don't mean, spreading yourself thin and trying to do all the things, but having enough so that there's a little bit of something substantial in maybe like 2 or 3 areas that you can have as a focus. And I think probably the other biggest thing was just making sure that you're staying connected within your community and not not getting too sucked into the smaller circles that we're usually involved with. Like my band family that's who I'm with 24/7, so my world had become rather small within that. And so when COVID hit, I didn't realize how much I was going to need the rest of the music community to lean on for just the moral support, for the guidance financially, for just, how we were all going to handle all this technology wise. How do I set up a home studio? I don't know, all of those things. So I, now that over the year, I have connected so deeply with so many singers and musicians in the community. I realize now just how vital it is to stay networking and just to stay nurturing all of your relationships. So yeah, those are like 3 big things that I've taken away.
Big things. Yeah, I often refer to the diversification that you're mentioning as the working singer. It's so important to have a like you said, a diversified career, or what I refer to as a portfolio career, because there are times, and COVID brought this into stark contrast for everyone, where, certain, if another way to think about it is having, a variety of, to be cooking a main meal. And at times you need to be bringing certain pots up to the boil and others down to simmer. And COVID swept in and almost killed the gas, like we suddenly, everything went cold. But the more diversification I think you can have as a working singer, then the more able you're able to, there's more resilience built into what you're doing. And of course, that then speaks back to the diversification of your skill set, doesn't it? It's not just, we're kind of mentioning that in regards to learning piano or another instrument. What other areas of diversification, because we need to, believe it or not, we'll need to wrap up in a second. But are there any other areas of diversification that you think you'd love to mention for people?
Yeah, I think maybe this just might be like more of a blanket statement or idea about diversifying. I think that a message that I really wanted to be delivered with the Pandemic Proof Singer was that as singers and musicians, you've really got to take complete and total ownership of your career and not rely on all of those people around you to do certain things for you. So let's use the example as instrumentalists, right? If you don't play a lick of an instrument, then you're always going to rely on finding an accompanist. You're always going to rely on having to have tracks or a band or something. And that can hurt you when you're trying to figure out the key of a song. If you need to change the key of a song, it's tough when you've got to lean on everybody for things like that. Another big area too is just technology. As singers, if you don't understand how a microphone works, how a speaker works, how sound waves work, or how in general a PA system is set up, or how a recording system works, you're always going to be leaning on somebody else to do those things for you. And when you can take total ownership of that and say, all right, I may not be, a technical wizard, but I am a smart, capable person, and I can learn this, and just reassuring yourself that you are much more than just a vocalist. You are a whole person that can take total responsibility of all of the different facets: technology, musicianship, professionalism, learning how to operate like a professional and treat this like a business. They're just things you need to have those things on your radar and always be kind of leveling up with them.
I so agree with those words, because I think when I first got into the profession, I just remember it was never actually stated like this, but kind of the impression is that, it was all too easy to be just a dumb singer. The singer who just rocked up and, expected to walk up to a microphone that had already been plugged in and, bumped in and all those sorts of things. But it's so important, and it is incumbent upon us as singers to educate ourselves about every facet of the industry. Yeah. And that doesn't just go for if you're a professional working singer, a gigging singer. It comes right back to no matter where you are, placing your voice, even as a vocational, there is, and we're in the age of, there's so much good information available. Much of it is free on places like here on YouTube. So, educate yourselves, singers. Enjoy the education, enjoy the learning. Before we finish, I want to give you the opportunity to just give a quick shout out, I guess, to your own event, the Pandemic Proof Singer Summit. I did it again. And let us know, when are you thinking that you'll run that again? Because a number of people in my community attended and loved it.
Oh, good. So glad to hear that. Yeah, I would like to have the next summit in November 2021. We had the first one in November, so they were all 6 months apart. So I don't have an exact date set, But if you'd like to get on a waiting list for the next one coming up, you can go to thesingersummit.com. And if you want to just kind of stay in the loop of, what I have going on with the Pandemic Proof Singer, because I have the summit and then I also have the weekly interview series, you can just find everything about that at danielletucker.com. I've got the schedule for that. And you can kind of, or you can join the Facebook group, which is the Pandemic Proof Singer. We're on Instagram, all the different places. But yeah, if you pick a platform that you like Instagram or Facebook, follow us there, and we'll keep you in the loop on everything that we're doing.
And everyone, I want to really encourage you to get yourself on the waiting list, just so you get the email updates, because there is such a collection of leading professionals from every facet that we've even talked about today. And so in keeping with our encouragement for you as a singer to develop and educate yourself, there possibly isn't a better place to do it than the Pandemic Proof Singer Summit, because Danielle has collected just some really top-notch people from so many different facets of the industry. So I want to really encourage everyone to join this. I was amazed, Danielle, at the beginning of the show, before the show, you told me that you had 1,900 people participate in this year's summit, which is just extraordinary, and a real credit to yourself in having the vision and developing the skills, as we've been talking about, in putting that all together. And so congratulations to you on such a wonderful event. And congratulations to you not congratulations, thank you for hanging out and having a chat with me today. I knew it would be rich with you sharing your expertise and your experience. And so I do want to just say thank you so much for hanging out.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you to you as well. You are so loved within our community. It was a huge honor that you said yes to participate. And I know that everyone got so much out of your presentation. And, I hope that you'll come back and join us at the next one. And, all of Dr. Dan's followers listening, please encourage him in the comments to say yes for the next time.
That's what we in Australia call a stitch up. But I would love to come back. I enjoyed the process, and even the questions that were asked after my session were so engaged. And I would love to come back. And all things being equal, I guess we'll do it again in November, which will be a lot of fun. So thank you for the live invitation. I appreciate it. Well, there you go, everyone. How good is Danielle? And so free in sharing her expertise and her experience. And it's not often that we get to hear from a working singer to sort of, pull back the curtain and be able to gaze into, someone's process and someone's the way they do things. I'm not kidding when I say there are so many similarities between Danielle's career and mine, and also her preparation. So that was kind of funny to have a listen to. I hope you've enjoyed today's show. How could you not? That was awesome. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button and let us know that you have. Next week, we're doing a Q&A, so make sure you don't miss a show. What you have to do is subscribe to the channel, hit the white bell icon to make sure that YouTube know that you want to be reminded about the show each week. We do it every Monday when I'm not attending funerals or on holidays. Every Monday at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, which was about 55 minutes earlier than we are right now. So check your local time, your local clock, and we'd love to hang out with you. Next week is the Q&A. So if you've never participated in that before, what we do is you ask the questions and I do my best to answer them. And of course, if I don't know the answer, then I'll let you know, and I'll go about trying to find the answer at a later date and come back to you. But it's always a good show, so make sure you tune in next week, and we'll hang out. So until I see you again next week, I hope you have a great week. I'll see you again soon. I'm Dr. Dan.